guys for tuning in and checking us out. My name is Rick Roc. This podcast is brought to you by Team Humble Hands. Today's guest is the People's Champ, Mauricio Herrera.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us, Mauricio. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. Just training today, and it's another day, and we're looking forward for another fight pretty soon. So we're just shedding this weight off and being ready.
I know you've had an impressive resume, and we'll get to that. I want to start by where you started in boxing and what made you take on this sport.
Well, it started, I guess you could say, around 13. I mean, I was always fighting before, but it wasn't until I stepped into the gym, I was 13 years old, followed by my younger brother, who was like a year younger. We went into the gym, and my mom was the person that took us there. It was at a church, in Casablanca. It was a rough little area, a lot of gangs, a lot of shootings. We weren't from that area, but we had to drive and go to the gym. And it was an older guy there named Rudy Garcia. He started training my brother and told us we were natural, it was easy to work with us, and we went from there. It was at a church, but all our training started out there.
How was your amateur career coming up?
And the funny thing is, we didn't have a big amateur.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd always spar and train, and we'd always want to fight, and he kept it local. Only had about 35 fights, I think, and some tough opponents. I think the only one that you probably know will be I think he's heavyweight now. I can't remember his name, but that was a big fight for me. Me and my brother both, little amateur background, but fighting and sparring a lot really kept us, sharp, and we kept learning from that, and it worked out till today.
I know you actually had a late start as a professional when you started when you were 27.
Yeah, no, it was, like I said, my trainer, Rudy, we're always like, hey, we want to go pro, 22, 23, we're sparring these guys who already went pro that we fought in amateurs. And he looked at us and said, yeah, you guys are young, you guys are too young. And then finally, at 26, 27, hey, want to go pro. And you know what? You guys are too old already.
Wow.
You guys should have done it. But I mean, I love him, Rudy. I don't want to talk too bad, too much crap on him. He's a good guy. He taught us well-schooled guy. And it's just the sad part is that I kind of left him, and I had to go on my own. Once I heard that, I felt it was because he saw us as like his kids. Maybe he said he didn't want to see us get hurt. That's the hurt business to get hurt, but we had to go our own way, and we started at my parents' garage. Me and my brother had friends, whoever, and never really had a trainer after that. It was just whoever I was seeing on TV. Videos of Chavez and Tyson and James Toney. We watched all them fight and try to get pieces off them, and practically training myself at that time. And got the late start at 27.
I know now Riverside is starting to come up with boxers and it's starting to heat up as in prospects out here. But back then there wasn't really much work out here, was there? Yeah, no.
Riverside wasn't known. I think there was not too many fighters coming out, especially now. Pros, even an amateur. It was always LA area. But it's kind of weird. I think about it now. I think back there was nothing, and now Riverside's kind of like a hot spot now. And so I guess turning pro at 27 wasn't bad. It came right at a perfect time.
Do you sometimes think, what if I would have started at 21 or 22? Or...
Yeah, I think about it, but I don't know if I'd be, who knows, maybe at 27 I got a lot out of my system. Maybe a lot of whatever was bad or ups and downs. And so 27, I think, the way I see it, I was a mature experience as I went in the first fight. And hey, I made up for it. I mean, got me all the way here in a pretty quick time.
Exactly. You seem like you're a fighter that you always make do for what you have, and you take advantage of the situation that are brought to you. So, what do you consider your fighting style to be?
I've always tried to be a technician in the ring. A boxer. Never thought about brawling. I didn't like that type of style, but I can do it, and if I like to give what the people want, and sometimes well, we can go into that, but most likely I'd like to be a smart fighter, smart technician in boxing. And it worked out for me. It worked out through amateurs, being smart, sticking with the jab. I always know the jab was the key to every fight, and it is to this day. So I mean, it worked out fine. Keep with the basics.
It seems like nowadays the jab's a lost art. Like a lot of fighters don't use it as much or don't set their punches as much. And for you, you've not only were able to make it your best weapon, but it's just the timing of your jab, which allows you to set other punches up.
Yeah, the jab is a lost art, and it's a basic punch that not only because they're not teaching it to these kids, they don't not only are they not throwing it, but they don't know when it's coming at them what to do with it. So I think that I have an advantage in that, you know. And the jab it's the key to boxing. I think it's the key. That's the first thing they teach you in boxing. So I don't understand why any of them are not using it.
Who's some of the fighters that you've kind of emulated your style after growing up, and you learned maybe some tricks with the jab?
You know, at first it was I used to like Chavez. I always liked Chavez. You know, just whatever tapes I had at the time. You know, I didn't have all the fighters. Whatever I had there were given to me. Were a lot of Mike Tyson, a lot of Chavez, De La Hoya, Barrera. Those are the ones the only tapes I had of them. You know, but as I got older, I started to look at other fighters, and one that really caught my eye, and I started working and even trying to emulate his style was James Toney. You know, he has everything. He can box, he can brawl, he has defense. I'm a big thing on defense, you know, and with James Toney, I think that guy has the complete package, and I follow all of his tricks.
Yeah, James Toney seems like he's well-rounded at his prime. But another thing that you guys have in common is the craftiness. Like it may seem like he's doing something subtle, but you guys are actually setting something up.
Yeah. I mean, there's always you're setting up some, laying a trap. It's outsmarting the guy. That's what boxing is about. And you get a buzz. That thing turns you on. You want to slick and think. The guy thinks either you're playing possum or something, and you're setting up for something, and when it happens and it gets through, it's the best feeling. Especially just out picking the guy apart is what it is.
I know you're coming up. I know you've been doing a lot of fights with Golden Boy. When did they actually sign you? And when did you start actually fighting for them?
It wasn't until last year. I think it was January. I think the end of January. Before that, I was signed with a small promoter, Thompson. Did all my fights here in Ontario, Corona, just locally, and I was signed 5 years with him. And it was peanuts. I wasn't getting no money. Around the end of the contract, was going to end. It was me and my manager at the time was not with me anymore. I had problems with him, so he's out of the picture. He said the contract was ending, and Thompson had told us they wanted to re-sign me. Money was not good. At the same time, we're reaching out to Golden Boy. We weren't hearing anything. He finally kind of gave up and said, "Hey, let's just re-sign with Thompson, a small promoter, and see what happens." I mean, it's a guy. They're not reaching out to us. I said, "No." I finally gave in. I said, "Okay, we're going to resign. We're going to resign a day, the next day." So I said, "It is what it is. Whatever happens, happens." And the funny thing is, I had nothing in the bank. I have a house right now, but I was broke. I had no money coming in. Thompson, they had no fights for me for a while. Went home that day thinking about, all right, I'm going to get a little money for a bonus, not too much. I got all these bills to pay, all that's going to there, and thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be with Thompson, that's it. I mean, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, no choice.
And no choice. We got a call, and it was from Golden Boy, and said, "Hey, we want to see you tomorrow. Come by to our office." We canceled that right away, of course. The timing went in. Oh, they signed my life away for another 3 years with little locally fights. Golden Boy came in, we signed with them, and bam, here we go.
So as soon as you signed with Golden Boy, it took a lot of pressure on you, and you were able to evaluate your career. Did you make any changes to your manager then, or?
At the time, I was still signed with my manager, but who was not a very good guy. He's a fun guy to be around, but business-wise, sucked. His name was Willie Silva, by the way. So if you guys want to know who that was, stay away from that guy. So I had signed with him. He was signing with him for a while. He was doing a lot of dirty things.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know, instead of fighting getting big-headed, he was getting big-headed.
Yeah.
He was the one trying to take control, take charge, take over the corner. And it wasn't until Benavidez fight, when I fought him, I finally had to let him go. I mean, it was a lot of things he did, but it was just a little thing at the end that just kind of popped the whole thing. And yeah, I was doing most of my managing myself anyways. He was kind of half there, half not, and I'm better off without a manager right now at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of some of the fights that you were in, the fight that kind of put you on the map was the Ruslan fight. But I actually saw you in another fight before that, and that's when you fought Mighty Michael Chongo. I was a Chongo fan.
Yeah.
One of my friends had sent me a tape of that fight because I think it was like Chumash, right?
Yeah, Chumash.
Yeah, and I looked over the fight and I said, man, I think Chongo lost. You know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think Chongo lost, and I was a huge fan, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but it looked like he got a blessing because he got a win. What do you recall about that fight?
Oh, you know, that fight was, I remember that fight real good because I was with Thompson Promotion, and at the time, that was during December, and they said I wasn't going to fight that rest of the year. You know, I had like 3-4 months till next year. And I was going to plan to go to Mexico with my wife. Her brother was getting married up there. Bought the ticket. I wasn't training anymore because I said I'm taking the year off. They told me I was going to go over there, and they called me for a chongo, for showbox. And the promoter said, hey, you want this fight? And I'm like, I'm not even training. It was within, and I came like 3 weeks notice. And I said, oh, 3 weeks notice, and they lied to me saying this and that. Then like showbox would get mad if you don't fight. Well, how are they gonna get mad? So it was all this pressure with same with that manager, you know. And I said, okay, I'll take it. We took the fight, and then as soon as I went Monday to train, I got sick. I had a fever, and the whole week I had a bad fever. It was just a bad thing. And I said, oh, I can't fight. I only got 2 weeks after this, and I have to lose weight, dehydrate on top of that, a fever. My manager, you know, he should have said, hey, let's pull out. No, he was like, hey, you know, you can get better. It'll be all right. No, I mean, you know, it takes a lot to get out when you're sick.
Yeah.
So the other 2 weeks is sweating, which was more sick and weak. And we took that fight like that. And I watched that Chongo, but I said, his style I know I can beat. And I felt good, but I knew inside, you know, when it came in like the deep rounds, I was going to feel it. And I did feel it, but I still thought I won that fight.
Yeah, I remember they were, Golden Boy was really trying to push on Chongo at that time, and they were trying to bring him back. And a lot of people
So I know maybe they got a little edge on me, and some judges, you know, I want to say who later said, you know, I think, you know, if I gave them, I messed up, and you know, hey, what, almost as if he wasn't paying attention or something, you know.
A lot of your fights have been controversial, but you've been the type of fighter that you've taken on all challenges, and you've fought, your resume speaks for itself. You've fought some of the best fighters out there.
Yeah.
What kind of mentality do you have when you're presented with a fight, a tough fight, and what are you going to training camp thinking?
You know, it's I think it's the way I was just maybe raised, and the road I took, I guess, was the hard way. Turning pro late, you know, having all that patience and finally doing it, having a strong character. My upbringing is not so great like most boxers, you know. You're not growing up rich or with good money, or else you wouldn't even go into fighting, you know. So going into fighting, almost felt good, you know, beating guys up, was feeling like I was winning in life. So when I get offered a tough guy, I don't see him tough. I see him just like another human being, you know, who went the same way as me, and we're gonna both go at it. And so none of them scare me. I go in there already confident. So, and I have the will to win and not to quit, you know.
Going into the Ruslan fight, how was your preparations for that fight? How was your training day? Everything go?
That was the only fight when I was with Thompson that I had enough time to train. You know, I had a little over 2 months to train for that fight. I just got my trainer Jose Torres with me. He's the one that was the first fight together. And it was beautiful. We had 2 months of training, hard training. We had sprinting. We did a lot of things we couldn't do in other fights. And we were ready. I knew how tough he was on because I saw him before on ESPN, and I actually liked the way his style, his fight. I'm a big fan of Costa Zoo, you know, and I compared him to him. I said, this guy's, you know, a little bit like that guy. And I never thought I was going to fight him that quick. You know, it was within a month to get out for him. And it went good. It was one of the highlights of my career, I think.
Yeah, you boxed beautifully that fight, and you know, Ruslan had 150 amateur fights. You said yourself he had around 30. So
Yeah.
when a fighter has more experience than you, than amateur and professionals, what kind of game plan do you go in knowing that you know you're already kind of behind in the experience?
When they asked me that one time, I think when I was fighting Danny Garcia, and the thing I say is, the advantage I have is all them guys have 200, 300, 400 amateurs. So they've been trained a certain way for a long time. They're used to certain habits. Me, I never really had a steady training early on. You know, a lot of times I did my own stuff. Maybe maybe we're doing some bad things I weren't supposed to do in boxing. Maybe not the right way. So I never really had the same trainer, for a long time. So I have a off rhythm, type of style, and I try to fight off rhythm. I never let just fight in a certain way, like everybody else, a basic style. I try to throw guys out. I think that's been helping me, with these guys.
Another guy you defeated was Mike Dallas Jr. He was 17-1, and he also had a lot of amateur fights, and you were able to kind of break him down.
That Mike Dallas is a tough fight. He had speed, height, he can box, and that was another tough fight that I had. I think after a couple of rounds, I finally found my place and knew what I can do with him, and I think I pulled it out.
Yeah, I think he had like 120 something. 20
Yeah, that's a lot of fights these guys have.
Yeah. Talk about one of your most controversial fights with the Danny Garcia fight, where you went to Puerto Rico and you showed the fans what you could do and what you're capable of doing. And I'm sure everywhere you go, somebody will bring up that fight sooner or later.
Yeah, they don't let me forget it. I mean, it was a big fight, in my career. It was for a world title. I said, for Golden Boy, give me a big fight and we'll sign it to you guys. And that's the fight they gave me. I was happy, I was confident, and hey, it was Puerto Rico, so it was supposed to be something scary for me, but I was confident once I was in that ring.
As soon as you got in there, is the way you avoided the left hook, and you also countered him. And what was the game plan going into that fight?
Our game plan was to be myself, not to really change too much. I think my style alone was going to give him problems. But to avoid the left hook, it was the main thing. Take the left hook away, and he was not going to be able to adjust. As you see, he didn't land any left hooks. I can't remember now, 1 or 2 left hooks landing. Not throwing the right hand as much kept him, hold like the right hand in his holster, never threw that right. If I didn't throw, let him through his left hook. If I would throw my right, he would throw his left. So I think in the beginning of the fight, the key was to throw jabs, avoid throwing our right, and make him just kind of hold back on that left hook. And he never got to throw it, frustrated him. And at the time, once we wanted to start throwing some right hands, and by the end, he was all over the place.
When you heard the decision, I know fighters know when they want to fight. What did you think when you heard the decision and you were in Puerto Rico and the people were actually booing the decision and embracing you?
Yeah, it was. We knew we had won it, and we came out clean. It was actually it felt like one of our easiest fights, thinking it was going to be, people were saying the hardest fight, and my trainer, they said, what, it might even be the easiest fight, So at the end of the last round, the bell rang. We thought we won it, but I knew in the back of my mind it was not gonna happen. Some feeling just came over me. But they were all excited, my family and friends, and people in my corner. You won it, you won that. But I knew they were gonna give it to him. And so, but at the time, I didn't really process too much of it. I was happy that I fought for world title. I was in Puerto Rico. The fans saw, I had a lot of love in that night. So they called out his name, and I was happy that the fans saw who I was and what I did, and I never stopped hearing it since. So it never let me get down.
Yes, fight fans don't forget certain fights like that, and they kind of takes you to a level where you're a fan favorite and the people's champ.
Yeah, they're more good than bad.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Is you guys being in Puerto Rico with all your family, how did they embrace you after the fight? Like the people walking around?
Oh, it was beautiful. I flew in like 20 family members. I had to have some love there to feel, and being that I think Danny didn't talk English, didn't speak English, he didn't really communicate. He didn't speak Spanish. He didn't really communicate with the people down there, and I did, and wherever we stayed, we talked to the locals and getting out of love, and most of them didn't really know too much of Danny either, So I was already trying to make little fans here and there. And after the fight, I mean, they invited us over. We had a little party out there in the streets with them barbecuing and stuff, and it was fun. I mean, the crowd showed me love after the fight, so
That's
everything was
cool.
feeling good.
So you stayed around, you talked to the fans. Was Danny like?
Yeah, Danny. Yeah. Well, I mean, after the fight, Danny was out like 5 minutes. I mean, it took at least 15, 20 minutes to get through the crowd, and stood for pictures and took our whole time out there. You know, they were done. Maybe they were disappointed, whatever. They had to feel. The dad was not happy with his performance. So I mean, they probably just wanted to go in the locker rooms and hide it. You know? And we had a fun time leaving and after the fight. You know?
I know Danny has a fight coming up this weekend with Guerrero. The way he's kind of been brought up in his career is kind of like what boxing has turned into now as a business. You know, the other day, Angel Garcia made a comment about he didn't agree with Shawn Porter and Thurman fighting at this level if they're making money fighting guys like Rod Stockton.
Yeah.
You're the opposite of that. You fight to prove yourself. You fight to be matched up with the best. The way that boxing has changed right now, what's your opinion on how it is right now? And some of these fighters that really haven't fought anybody, I'm not saying Danny, but other fighters, and people are comparing them to the greats. Yeah,
they have to fight their toughest competition out there. I mean, there's time. I mean, there's a certain time for that. Make your money here and there. But I mean, if you're gonna avoid for a long time, just do simple fights or fights that are not 50-50, you know. That's not good for the people. The people are not stupid. I mean, especially smart boxing fans. They know what it's about. I mean, maybe you can fool some regular fans that just tuning in, but the real boxing fan knows what it's about. And they gotta eventually fight each other, you know, and give the people a great show. You know, and the money will come. The money will be there.
Another thing I was going to ask you about the Garcia fight is how did you feel about the open scoring system that they were doing for that fight?
You know, I don't think I really didn't know till that time that they told me, but I didn't really think about it as much. You know, it's kind of surprising. You know, we didn't know till like the last minute, so we weren't really prepared for it. But outside looking in, I don't think that I like that idea. You know, it's kind of will throw you off watching it. You know. You're over there, you already kind of know where it's going to go, and you don't get that surprise at the end.
Yeah, but as a fighter, if you know you're down...
It'll help you, but you still can't do nothing about it. I mean, I was feeling like I was winning. They were telling me, push it, you're doing good, this and that, but it was like, I don't know what's going to happen at the end. I mean, who knows? You know, I won that round, but, you know, they gave it to just, well, what more do I got to do? Sometimes it may throw you off, and you may do a little too extra and be careless or something. You know, you got to be yourself and stay calm and focus.
Another young lion that you took on, and many people saw you winning, was Benavidez. How did you see that fight?
It was a fast, tough prospect. A fight I didn't even have to take. You know, I think I really did good. I fought some tough guys, and I was on my way. They offered me him, and we took it. It was a young prospect. We gave him the opportunity. I had a better resume, of course, so I was going to be, you know, for him to see what he got. And I knew that, and we went in that fight. I knew of Benavidez before and watched tape of him and liked his style, you know, watched him spar and videos and thought, all right, now I got to fight this guy. So a young guy, I think my timing and my what I know, my experience, I think would get to him. And it did. I thought I did good in that fight. I thought he was there just trying to make the round, trying to go the distance, but not try to win. Maybe he was saving, you know, himself, but as he was doing that, he was losing the rounds. I thought he wasn't doing enough, and I know he's not convinced that he really won that fight. I think, of course, they called his name, so they had to run with it. But that's another fight I felt that I won. I hear that from fans as well.
Was there any fights that were offered you as a rematch, but you kind of just said, I'm not interested in?
The only fight they offered me right away was rematch was with Benavidez. Well, I think they were saying it, but my thing was I had to come up the hard way, and nobody gave me no opportunity. I had to go and fight hard fight. Benavidez was more of a pampered guy. I mean, he's flashy, he did get pampered, so I gave him the opportunity. You know, I was that guy who had more experience, and if he looked good against me, you know, he was gonna be someone. So I felt if I give him another fight right away, the guy's gonna come up a little more, and I felt I won that first fight. So in that particular time, I said, let him fight some some better guys, some bigger guys, some
Come
tougher
back
guys,
up.
and come back up,
Maybe a
and maybe we can both make more money.
Yeah.
And I said, let's see what he does without me, And who has he fought? He ran with the belt, and who did he fight? Baez Jr. and who was the other guy? Another guy with kind of a losing record on him.
Yeah. Currently, you're ranked, in the WBC you're 2, WBA you're 3, WBO you're also 3. What are your plans going into 2016?
Our plans are, Golden Boy. We just talked with them the other day, and they what they want to do is give me. There's Ruslan Provagan go for rematch. So they're knocking on the door. They keep wanting. They want that fight, and so I know that fight's gonna be there. That's a fight that I would love to get a rematch. And not only because the fans will like it. It makes sense all the way around. Money wise, it's a great fight for the people, for the promoters. So those are the rematches I would like to give. And they mentioned that, and they also mentioned Matisse wants to make a comeback at 147. And so right now they're working on either one of those, either Ruslan sometime in April or Matisse in the Canelo undercard May 7th at 147.
Both are great matches.
So 147, I haven't got Matisse in my list, so that's another 140, one of the best. I think hard, tough fight. At 147, I'll give it a go at there if they want it, and we're just waiting on them. They're just working it out and see what happens.
Your last fight versus Hank Lundy, I know you suffered a cut. How's the healing process on the cut, and how's everything turning out?
Everything is, I was pissed. That fight pissed me off. Lundy, I'm still mad at that guy. I'm still mad at him. He cut both my eyes, real bad cuts. It seemed like it was a kind of accident, but then it kind of seemed like he was trying to do it on purpose. He saw that it was cut and was going for that. But it took a while to heal. I would have fought another fight last year at least. But I got infected and had to wait a little longer, so it's good now.
So you're good? You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. It's not going to heal anymore. So we're ready now for May.
What are your opinions on Lundy taking on Crawford at this point?
I think they gave Crawford Lundy had no choice. They just and neither Crawford. They had offered me that fight in February, which was a little early. I took the time off. We just started back. They were already saying we're telling me April, May, so kind of my mind was there. They tried to ambush me with February with the Crawford, and they've been doing that to all of my career. So I tried to be smart this time. I said, you know what? How about we skip Crawford right now because it's it was too soon of a fight. He's not going anywhere. I could fight Matisse and get Crawford in and make it for more money, and then it would be worth it for the people to watch a great fight. Crawford's not going anywhere, neither am I. I'm still in the game. I'll fight Matisse, and I know that fight will still be there for me.
Looking forward to checking you out in 2016. I want to thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Anywhere where the fans could check you out, follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram. I'm Mauricio Herrera 359. Or you can follow me on Twitter, which I'm hardly on there, but at Maestro1.
This is Rick Roc. See you in the ring. Thanks, Roc.
All right, man.
That's good right there.
Thank you.